What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fourth Generation Podcast. I'm joined once again with Priscilla.
Hello.
And today we're going to go over our Spooky Story Wednesdays.
Let's do it.
You ready to do it?
I'm ready.
Before we get started, guys, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps push the channel out. So let's go ahead. Let's get straight into it. My story this week, it is the most outlandish story that I've told so far on the channel, and even I had trouble believing it. But there's so many witnesses, and I guess you can say documentation, to where the point. I mean, it's a story that even Steven Spielberg knows about it or wanted to investigate on it. Okay. Wow. Yeah, so it's out there.
Okay.
But the jury's out if it's real or not. But it is out there. It's a story. Okay. So this story takes place in Zimbabwe in Africa, in 1991. Okay. It has to deal with the school of children. So just a normal day out. The faculty were going to hold a meeting, right? So everybody got together. The whole faculty came in together to hold a meeting, and they let the kids go play recess outside, right? And during the meeting, they started hearing a commotion. They started hearing the kids crying. Some of them were screaming, and then they went out to go look, and they saw that the kids had wandered far from the playground all the way out to I guess like their little, it's like a little field that they had behind the school. Yeah. That the kids weren't allowed to go back there because it was snake infected, right? So they had a bunch of poisonous snakes out there. And so the teachers ran out there. They go ask the kids, okay, so what happened? What's going on? So all the kids are crying. They're bawling. Some of them are on the ground crying. Some of them are standing up and crying and hysterical. And some of the younger children started talking about a creature that approached them. That they went back to some of like the local folklore, right? So like their chupacabra or something like that, you know. Yeah. But some of the older kids told a story that was way different. And a lot of those kids now, well, of course, this happened in 91. A lot of those kids are adults now, and they still stand by the story. Yeah. To where even there's a documentary that came out on it that's not very well known, but it just came out recently. Okay. So the story was that the kids were out there playing at recess, and that 3 mysterious objects appeared in the sky over the top of them. Okay. So those 3 objects approached the kids, and the kids were kind of infatuated by it. Like they looked at it, you know, they were kind of stunned. Wow, some of them were in shock. And the 3 objects hovered above them, and then one of them lowered. And they say that the next thing they knew is that they saw a small creature standing outside the object. They didn't see anything open. They didn't see where the creature came from. It just appeared out of nowhere. Exactly. It just appeared in front of them. So some of the kids, they described the creature as being like 3 to 4 feet tall. It was wearing like a metallic tight suit. It's almost like a wetsuit, but it was like metallic color. Light green little heads, and they said they had eyes that were shaped like rugby balls, right? So big black eyes. Yeah, and that the kids coming into contact with this creature, they didn't speak with them directly, but the kids got a sense that they were being communicated through their mind by the creature, like telepathically. So some of these aliens started to essentially warn them about a future where everybody. Where technology leads everybody to mass extinction, a war that breaks out, and people killing each other. And so these are visions that the kids are starting to get, right? From these creatures. And then they say the next thing they knew was the creature disappeared, and then the 3 objects kind of just flew off into the sky. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's a little out there. It's a little weird. But leading up to this, a few days before, there had been reports in the neighboring city in Zimbabwe of mysterious objects in the sky. Yeah. So there had been actual police reports that people were reporting these lights going over the top of them. Yeah. And that day, the neighboring school, from the school name was Ariel, right? Mm-hmm. From that neighboring school reported seeing those objects at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. I mean, the same thing didn't happen to them, but they saw the same objects that the kids were reporting on. Yeah. And so the kids were questioned afterwards by the local authorities, and they were asked to draw pictures of what they saw, and they were all separately. Yeah. And some of the older kids, they drew what they saw was pretty similar to what everybody else was describing. Mm-hmm. So they all were separately asked to, like, okay, draw me a picture of what you saw. They were pretty similar. Yeah. They were very alike. Yeah. Now, over time, of course, this story kind of just went to the side. Like, nobody really paid attention to it. Yeah. In 1994, there was this filmmaker that was working on documentaries of the unknown, and he tried to set up a meeting with Steven Spielberg, like to try to get on a project. Yeah. But Steven Spielberg decided not to meet with him, but he told him, hey, take a look at this incident and go report on it. Tell me what you find on it. And the guy reported on it, but he thought it was fake. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. Yeah. It wasn't until just recently, I think it was 2020, that he revisited it and made a documentary on it. So the documentary came out, and it has a lot of the kids from the school that they're interviewing. Yeah. And well, of course, Zimbabwe is a war-torn country, so there's a civil war that breaks out. So a lot of those kids didn't survive. So a lot of those kids ended up passing because of all the turmoil that's going on in Zimbabwe. But some of them were able to make it out. So they found a handful of them. And then they described the story exactly the same. Same exact story. So there are a few theories on what this might have been. The leading theory of it being mass hysteria. So you understand kind of what mass hysteria is? So it's when a group of people share the same delusion. Okay. Right? So like if say I witness something, and then I tell you, but I convince you so much that you believe it yourself, but it really didn't happen. Yeah. So that's kind of like mass hysteria. Yeah. Okay. So that's what a lot of people think happened there, which is these kids maybe just saw something else, something traumatizing, and that's what they were reporting. The second theory is that what would really happen. That there were beings from another dimension or from space that came to warn them about the future. The last one being that maybe the creatures that they saw were like future humans, the ones that were able to travel in time to come back into the past and deliver or like give the kids a warning. Yeah. But a lot of people question, like, okay, well, if they were going to do that, why would they go to a group of kids in Africa? Yeah. So, but then a lot of people said, well, like maybe because the aliens are small, they thought that these were
tiny like humans.
Tiny adults or humans. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a little out there. It's pretty, it's unexplainable. Yeah. Because of so many witnesses and then so many reports prior to this experience happening. So much so that it caught attention from big names. Yeah. So I know it is out there. I had trouble kind of believing it too.
It's like it just sounds like it's out of a movie. Like somebody just.
It sounds almost too good to be true. Yeah, for sure. But going through it and well, I try to find as much as I possibly can. Of course, I mean, I didn't watch the documentary, you know, because you have to pay for it. But you know, but it is very interesting at the very least to kind of just go through it and see, you know, that there's so many witnesses, and then so many years later, why would these kids still stick to the same story?
Yeah.
Like what benefit do they have from telling this story, right? So again, like it's out there, but it's interesting and it's cool to maybe even just take a look at the very least. Like if people want to like research it a little bit more, because I looked it up on YouTube to see as much as I can find. There's only like a handful of videos about it. Yeah. But I think it's only because it's so crazy. Yeah. Because there's so many stories.
It's hard to understand because it's a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to believe them? Yeah. But then there are a bunch of kids tell the truth. Kids are the ones that tell the truth.
That's true. Like, why would those kids all lie?
Just lie or come up with the story and just, this is where we're going with. And years later, we're going to say the same thing, you know?
And so that's what I thought was weird, because when there's alien abduction stories or alien encounter stories, it's mostly just like one person. Yeah. Right? This time there was
like a group of
kids. A whole school was involved. So
that's crazy.
It's interesting. It's at the very least interesting to take a look at.
Oh, definitely. It is different.
It's different. It's definitely totally different from the other stories.
But yeah, like you said, it's like usually, it's just one person had seen something, two people, but it's like a whole school of kids, you know, it's a group of kids. You can't all keep saying the same story. Like, somebody usually messes up, but it's all the same. And especially 20 years later, that they're still selling the exact same story. And then you watch some of their testimonies, and you would, because I mean, usually when you're listening to somebody who has an alien stories, you're like this guy's a wacko, yo. But you see some of the people that they interview for it, they're pretty believable. Yeah. They look like regular people, like regular folk. And then watching them tell their story or listening to what they're saying, like it's something they experience. You can't you can't fake it.
Exactly. And it's like, and that's another thing that a lot of people were throwing out there, that they were actors. And I mean, you got to be a pretty good actor
to keep that same story.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially the way they initially reacted to it. Like, some of the kids were like, they said like a lot of the kids were legit like crying. Like, a lot of them were in shock about what they saw. They just saw. Yeah, because I mean, you see 3 flying objects, and then a creature appears out of nowhere,
tells you something about the future,
and then communicates with you telepathically. To where the kids were like understanding, like, he's not talking to me, but he's
telling me something.
He's sharing his thoughts into my head, like directly. And a lot of those kids, they didn't understand the concept of alien. Yeah. Like, they were still too young. Yeah. That's why some of the younger ones, they compared it to like a local folklore creature, like their version of the boogeyman. Yeah. Right? But some of the older kids, like, they were like, "Hey, no, that's
alien.
Something." It's like from a lot of those kids were like, "This is not from this planet." Yeah, exactly.
Understood.
Very interesting. I definitely wanted to just keep, because I only had a couple days to look through it, but I really want to just stay with it and actually just, if I can share more with it later, I will, for sure. Definitely.
Keep up with that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay, so you got a story for us, right?
I got a story for today. It's not as crazy. Never is. You always outdo me.
I mean, I don't know. Sometimes some of your stories are real bummers.
Yeah, but not as exciting, I guess. No, this one. Mm-hmm. It is somewhat of a still ongoing investigation. This isn't the only case that this has happened with before, but I came across a story about Patrick McNeal. Mm-hmm. He, this story took place in 97. Yeah. So in 1997, it's still going on. Mm-hmm. He was about 20, 21 years old, going to school in New York. Mm-hmm. He was healthy, always, took took care of himself. Good guy. He worked a lot of jobs on campus. Yeah. You know, close with his family and everything. So one night, him and his buddies. So there was a bar in town that him and his buddies would hang out at. One of his roommates worked at that bar. So just anytime they had time off or to blow off some steam, they'd go drink up at the bar. And one night, they had been drinking. They went on an all-night bender of just drinking. After a while, he got sick. You know, ended up throwing up in the restroom. Just wasn't feeling good. So he ends up telling them, like, okay, the guys, like, I'm out for the night. One of the girls that was hanging out with them said, oh, like, I'll go with you that way. Because he was pretty wasted. He was pretty out of it. Said that she would drive ride the subway with him. Because this is in New York.
In New York, yeah.
She'd ride the subway with him, but she took a while. So
what year was this again?
97.
97, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she didn't make it there. So he ended up just taking off by himself. So I guess he had to make like 2 turns or go down a block and make a turn to get to the subway.
Yeah.
And some people did see him. There was witnesses seeing him walking and stumbling, kind of like you could obviously tell this guy was intoxicated.
Yeah.
So the witnesses that said that they saw him said that there was like a van kind of following him. Kind of weird. And that was the last that anybody had heard of him or saw him for about, I want to say a month.
Oh, okay.
So in that time, they reported him missing. Yeah. His family was concerned. They reported him missing, I think, a day or 2 later because he wasn't showing up for work or for school or anything. And since he was old enough to go out on his own or do anything on his own, they couldn't really report it right away. So after the reporting, people went searching. This school volunteered. Everybody in town or anybody they can think of volunteered to help look for him. And it wasn't about a month later that they found his body in a river in the East River in New York, faced up. So keep that in mind. His body was faced up in the water.
Okay. And
it's not a big enough river for him to drown in, you know, and you know, they find his body. It was kind of weird, you know, he was kind of burnt, like there was black marks on him. There, you know, like didn't seem anything like where there was a big altercation that he, you know, like no major bruises or cuts or anything on him. So let's see. I need to look at my notes. I'm like facing this way.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they find his body in the river. They do an examination, autopsy, and they looked into his blood system, everything, did all the checks and everything.
Toxicology report.
Yeah. And his blood is what do you call it?
His blood alcohol
blood was very low for him to drown, because some people were like, oh, maybe he just stumbled into the river and drowned and passed out or something. But he was it was 0.16, so it was below the limit for him to be totally still wasted, especially like a month later. You know, so
interesting.
He had no drugs in his system, so he was, you know, he wasn't completely gone, but he wasn't all there. You know, he was just kind of buzzed, I guess. Yeah. But what was weird when they found his body was that they found fly larvae in his groin area.
What is that?
So it's like some like a fly, like egg flies that grow, but from inside, like an indoor fly type thing.
Really?
Yeah. Like an indoor fly thing.
In his groin area?
In his groin area.
What the heck?
which is very weird for him to be, body found outside.
Yeah.
Outdoors. So that's what they thought. They thought it was weird that his body was faced up in the river.
He was
he was like
clothed.
floating. No, he actually just had socks and his pants on. And no
shirt.
ID, no anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so no shirt. It's just his pants and
some burn marks.
Yeah, and some burn marks. So, so he'd been missing for a month.
Yeah.
About a month that they find his body. Some people think that, the examiner just declared his death undetermined or accidental. They just weren't sure because there was no actual marks on him to be like
lacerations.
To think like, oh, it was a homicide or anything like it.
Really?
So since it was, he was a student at college and everything, the case went pretty big, media wise.
Yeah.
So a lot of other people, other examiners or investigators kind of nitpicked at the case themselves, like just from what they can hear or what they've seen about it, that a lot of them just don't believe, like, well, obviously, like, he didn't drown.
He didn't just drown.
He didn't just, like, pass out and drown.
And then not have a shirt on or ID,
especially
wallet.
In the condition that he was. And then compared to where the bar was to where he ended up was about 2 miles away. Which
not that far.
Which isn't far.
Yeah.
Some people say that obviously it was a homicide.
Yeah.
They think that he was burned. Well, they know he was burned from his head to about mid-torso, about his torso area. They also think that they did notice that there was marks on his neck, so they thought he was tied to, some type of chair to where he was, tied up on a chair. Just some of the marks that they noticed on pictures that they had seen about him and everything.
As if he was like tortured
prior to that. So they think he was tortured, murdered, and then disposed of later on in the span of the month that he had been missing. So a lot of the investigators that were on that case then have now retired, but are still working the case on their own. They still doing their investigations and everything. One investigator also noticed about exactly 1 year later, another case came up like that. Same thing, a man around the 20s, early 20s, mid 20s,
out
drinking with his buddies, and then just disappeared, and then body found again in the same river, again like a mile or two away from the bar that he went missing from. So a lot of the investigators that were originally on that first case noticed that one as well, and all retired now, but still searching and still looking into it. They have noticed they've noticed that it happened again in New York a year later. Again, another time, I think it said in like about 2009, in Massachusetts, they noticed. Wow. So it's kind of in other areas as well.
It's not an isolated incident.
It's not an isolated. They've noticed there's multiple. There's more than just the 1, 2, or 3 happening across the United States. Just no one's been out about it. It's not really out there because it happens in cities here and there. Like it's just one or two cases. It's just another case there.
It's two separate.
It's two. Yeah.
And then there's
different jurisdictions and everything.
Long time period throughout
in between the crimes. Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you. Does it normally happen to men or does it happen to women as well?
So with the investigators on this case, notice it's only men. They also notice that it's usually wealthy, young, healthy men, again in their early 20s.
Going to college,
that they have they're like a have-it-all type of. And
so what I thought was interesting that you said earlier that there was the toxicology report showed that it was only, you said what, 0.16 alcohol level?
Again,
they were and then found no drugs.
No drugs, no. These were healthy guys. They're not doing any drugs. The most they do would be drinking, but.
And then you would think guys in college in their 20s, they have a pretty high tolerance when it comes to alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not like it's super easy for them to probably
to just
black out a few drinks and then go drown in a river.
Out. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then and same thing with every case is that their bodies found faced up. Clearly, there's no like water in the lungs or anything for them to say.
And then a lot of these cases are they all found like in bodies of water?
Yes. They're always found in a river or bodies of water. Yeah.
And you say this doesn't garner that much media attention, right?
Yeah, no.
Do you think?
Which was interesting because I came across it came on a video with like multiple people in the missing, and when I actually looked up the guy's name, maybe like 3 videos came up.
So not a lot of attention.
Not a lot of people know about it. Yeah.
Do you think maybe it's because it's happening to wealthier guys? I mean, probably going to be white guys, young men.
Yeah. So with the investigators that are still looking on it, they're calling it the Smiley Face Killers because they've noticed that there was graffiti of smiley faces in some of the cases that they looked at around the area. So they think it's like some like gang thing that these people just come up, they stalk for these people and they look for them and everything that's how they...
So they think it's like a group of people, not necessarily just one person traveling throughout the country doing this.
Yeah, doing this.
It's like
they target these people because, I'm sure, these because people don't think have like, everything.
Hey, no one's gonna come look into a young man being murdered. They could just say, oh, he's a drunk guy.
He just disappeared and then came out of nowhere and just fell into the river and... Yeah.
And then they get robbed, right?
There's nothing on there. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is like crazy because it's not just the one case. There's multiple.
They're calling it the Smiley Face Killers?
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I've never heard of because I came across this guy.
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
And apparently it's the people that worked his case that are,
they're seeing the connections with the other.
Yeah, with the other ones. So those investigators are still going around and questioning and everything, looking into the other cases and realizing so many connections.
They're like
that
intertwined.
They all, all with the same, all with the ties and everything.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah. And like you said, like it doesn't garner that much media attention. Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that it's not because it's wealthier white guys, young guys that are going to college and they're thinking like they're like the frat type, right? Like like they have
everything good, the money, the popularity, they're good looking, they're they have it all. And
now, do you think like it's okay? Well, let's say it is a group of people. Do you think like they're like specifically targeting these guys like prior, like before they go out drinking? Like they know these guys like from school, or they know of these guys maybe through like social media now? I mean,
I noticed with one case, I think it was a case that happened a year later. The person that had passed away, or the person that they found. He was from out of town. I think he lived in Chicago and traveled to New York for New Year's. And that's when he disappeared. And then a month later he reappeared. But
so it does seem like they're doing it like at random. Like they're
that's what it seems like. And they're
targeting specific types. Yeah. Knowing that, it's a college town. They're going to come here.
Town.
Like, they're college bars.
Yeah.
They we know these kids like to come and party here.
Yeah.
We'll go here, track them down. Maybe one of these kids is flaunting his money in the club or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, let's get this guy on his own. Let's see. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So like they're targeting these people. They see a certain image, and they just go for the target, I guess. And it's not the first time. And I would like to look up when was the last case that they found, or when was the last time that they heard of anything of it.
But it's still an open investigation. It's still ongoing.
Yeah. Wow. It's still ongoing. Yeah.
Wow.
Just crazy.
Another good one, Priscilla.
Yeah.
Nice.
That one
was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one. I didn't enjoy that these guys
but
are
it's an interesting
killed,
story.
But it is. It's super interesting. Again, at the very least, it takes some looking into.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to go ahead and look up these cases on your own,
definitely do some research, read more up about it. There might be, updated information, but I looked up just the guy's name and not a lot came up.
Wow.
Just a couple videos.
Just not a whole lot of information. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was good. That was interesting. Two good stories, I feel like.
Yeah, it was.
This was fun again.
Yeah.
I think it was cool. Everybody else at home, if you guys enjoyed that, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you want more of this type of content. We really like enjoying it, and we really are extremely grateful that you guys were able to join us here today. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No. I think that's it.
That's about it?
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys all in the next video. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Bye.